My family, who is extremely homophobic, ended up kicking me out and replacing me with my best friend. My family is absolutely awful when it comes to topics about the LGBTQ plus community. Literally any mention of it and they get extremely upset. Which sounds like they're suppressing something to me, but I had a friend that we can call Katie and my family absolutely adored her. Every Christmas they would buy her presents. She would spend family movie night with us and they honestly treated her like she was the favorite daughter. So one day I made the decision to come out and I decided to talk to Katie about it. She was literally so supportive and so respectful that I gained the confidence to talk to my family about it. Bad idea. Health striked and they immediately kicked me out of the house. So I found myself on a schedule of switching from couch to couch at different friends' houses. One particular night that was really hard for me, I decided to go visit them. I was missing them and also hopeful that they might accept me back in. And as I approached the house, my best friend was over there. She was playing games and doing family movie night with them, and so I decided to knock on the door. I burst into tears and went off on all of them. The absolute audacity. Later, my best friend texted me saying that she had a secret. Follow my Insta. Part 2 to my homophobic family kicking me out of the house and replacing me with my best friend. So I cannot believe the audacity of my family literally replacing me with Katie. Not only was she just over there for movie night, but they had actually moved her into my room, the room that I was raised in. I felt so much fury that I had to walk around the neighborhood for a while just to calm down. But eventually I just started to walk back to the house that I was staying at. Once I got in, Katie messaged me. She apologized for being such a bad friend, but then she said she had a secret. And she came out to me as bisexual and begged me not to tell my family. She felt like my family was her own and she didn't want to get kicked out. I was so frustrated that she was keeping the same secret that I had in my house, but she's getting to actually stay at my house. It has been a full year now and she is still with them to this day. But thankfully, I'm now living with my boyfriend and his family has accepted me as bisexual. I am honestly so much happier and better off. If you guys have a story that you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. Have you ever had 17 girlfriends, 2 fiancés, 1 wife, and 4 kids? Yeah, me neither, but Jason freaking Collier did. So let's get into this case. So Jason Collier, who was the chief of police in a small town in Texas, ended up matching with a girl on a dating site. Her name was Cecily and they hit it off really well. She was a mom, she was divorced, and he presented himself as a really good, godly man that was gonna take over. He offered to take care of everything, pay for everything, and then eventually proposed over the phone a couple months later. She accepted and from then on out, he was referring to her as Mrs. Collier. Cecily got a little bit suspicious that he might be using her, so she went to go do some investigating herself. And on the police website, it listed him as being married and having kids. So she was like, okay, something doesn't add up. She confronted him and essentially was like, hey, what's this about? He was like, oh my god, no, I'm divorced, like we're getting married, baby, I love you. And he even gave her the annulment papers as proof, but they were all forged. So Cecily immediately took to Facebook. And that's when other girls started to come forward. And man, was a timeline created. Like for part 2. Okay, part 2 with the Jason Collier case, because this ish is crazy. So this man was literally juggling every single relationship possible that you could have. Like, save some women for the rest of us, Mr. 17 girlfriends, 2 fiancés, 1 wife. Anyway, so the first person to reach out because of the Facebook post was a girl named Christy. Christy saw it and she was like, oh my god, that's my man. Not only had they been dating, but he had also proposed to her and they were also planning a wedding. He was literally syncing up so many of the stuff that he said to these 2 girls. He literally bought one a coffee maker and then talked to the other one about buying her a coffee maker. And while he picked out one of the girls' rings, he was texting the other girl about picking her out a ring. While he was off with the other one, he would always send little video updates. And one of them was even about how he was helping out when the Capitol storming happened, even though he was just with one of his girlfriends. And as you guys should know, this is entirely illegal. So he obviously had to resign from the police force and then he was arrested later that day. The charge was for tampering with a government document with the intent to harm. And when I say a whole binder of women came forward with screenshots, but at least he gifted them all coffee makers. Follow me on Instagram for more content. Make sure you always verify who randomly adds you on Snapchat or you might accidentally send a nude to your substitute teacher. We're gonna call this guy James because that's his real name. And I got a notification one day that James had added me on Snapchat. I guess he added me in the section where you can find suggested friends, but I immediately recognized his name. Even though I was a lot younger, he had went to my high school prior and I had even watched him in a play. I was studying drama at the time and it was just at a local theater. But it didn't take long after James added me for his Bitmoji to start popping up. So eventually I decided to answer his chats. And yes, this man was super attractive, but we really bonded over theater for a couple of days and then he randomly asked me for nudes. I, not being okay with that, politely declined. And then I straight up got ghosted. And this cycle continued to happen about 3 or 4 times. He talked to me for a few days, bond, and then asked me for a nude or for me to come over to his house. I would decline and then get ghosted again. Weeks later, the cycle happened again, and this time I gave in. I sent him a half nude and he didn't screenshot it, so I thought we were in the clear. After that, he sent a video of himself and then I didn't hear from him for weeks. That was until I walked into my drama class. Part 2 to accidentally sending my substitute teacher a nude. Like I said, it was radio silence from James for weeks. And like how I previously talked about my passion for drama, I was very involved in drama at school. Our group was due to have a performance in the next few weeks. But sadly, our teacher had fallen and broken her leg, so she wasn't going to be able to teach us for a bit. So they had to call in an emergency substitute. My friends and I were rehearsing one day when we were told that our new teacher was on his way. We were told to keep practicing and that he'd come up and introduce himself and help us with our performance. That's when he walked in, and if you can't guess yet, it was James. When he saw me, he went white as a ghost and I felt sick. I mentioned to one of my friends what had happened and she was like, "Girl, you have to say something." But I didn't really want that reputation, so I stayed quiet. He even mentioned to our class that he had a girlfriend and that her birthday was coming up soon. It felt so awkward, but eventually a new substitute took over. And I have no idea what happened to James. He tried to Snapchat me after this, but I ended up blocking him. I was also about 16 at the time and he was about 22. And I don't know if he did this with other students. But James, we hope you see this. And if anyone has a story that they'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. So this is how a prank call could lead to a shitty relationship. So this might sound immature, but one day my friend and I thought it'd be funny to make some prank calls, so we called this guy that she knew. The guy we prank called had a really good sense of humor about it, so he decided to keep messaging me after. I really just wanted attention and decided to keep talking to him. And then that's when we FaceTimed. He was so cute and we continued to talk back and forth. But I had to go on vacation with my family for a few days, so we couldn't meet up quite yet. For this trip, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes, but it wasn't long until he started to notice that I wasn't much of a simp for him. This really bothered him, but he ended up going about it all the wrong way. He decided to start making up stories in order to get attention from me. They would be about him or his family, and he would just do it to get me to listen to him more. And me being a dumbass just kind of ignored this red flag and continued on in the relationship. So one day he sent me a message saying some guys had beat him up, even though in a previous picture he showed me he didn't have any bruises. 3 days later, when I was outside of a club, he messaged me that he had a brain bleed which led to a stroke and now he has permanent brain damage. Like for part 2. Part 2, a prank call might lead you to a shitty relationship. I literally stormed out of the club crying my eyes out. Straight up thought my boyfriend had severe brain damage. He told me this was a condition that he was going to have to spend the rest of his life with, and I cried until the morning. Once it got to the next day though, I kind of noticed that he was talking normally, he wasn't in the hospital, so I got really sus about it. So I decided to go ahead and text his mom through my mom's phone, just to check in and see how he was doing from her perspective. And she was like, "Oh, he's fine, it was just a little scare." A little scare? Brain damage is a little scare? He was like, "In fact, he's out biking right now." So I just stormed out to go dig some more information. I found out he messaged my best friend telling her not to tell any of his friends about his seizure. So I decided to confront him and called him fuming. And at first he denied everything. He was like, "No, it's all true." So I told him I needed a break, and that's when he was like, wait. I Googled some of the symptoms that I was having and that's what showed up. So you used Dr. Google. I just broke it off with him. If you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Insta. This is why you should never hook up with a man. Just kidding, this is also karma on my end too. So I was starting my freshman year of college and I was going into it with a girlfriend of 3 years. I was no longer emotionally invested in the relationship, but I wanted to keep up appearances back home. However, I knew that when I went to college, I wanted to hook up with someone. And not just anyone, I wanted to hook up with a man. Because I had literally never done that before. So I went to freshman orientation and went to a meet and mingle and ended up meeting a guy named Logan. At least that's what we'll call him. He was so cute and so charming, and we were able to bond over the nerdiest things, which is stuff that my girlfriend always made me feel extremely childish about. Logan made me feel validated and understood. This is when he told me he had a girlfriend too. Not long after, he ended up telling me he had a crush on me and wanted to talk about it in person. So I went up to his room and he sang to me, held me, and made me feel loved. Then I spent the night and, The next day he took me out to lunch with his parents, and then I decided to have a conversation with him about what we should do. We both agreed we should just keep acting like us and doing our thing, but I felt super bad and super uncomfy that he had a girlfriend. But one day my girlfriend found out and contacted his girlfriend. Storytime part 2 on why you should never sleep with a man. Again, just kidding, I am also to blame. Once my girlfriend found out I was cheating, she told Logan's girlfriend too. That night she blew up Logan's phone telling him everything she had been told, and he literally told his girlfriend that I did sleep with someone on campus, but it wasn't him. He said that I just told my girlfriend it was him just to spite her. I obviously
This world can be opaque, I know, 'cause I can feel it too. It was never